Hey there, esports fans. Welcome back. We are one series down and one more to go on the day. Coming up right here, we will have Boom Esports taking on LYB, who have made the playoffs for the first time in their PCS career. But before we get into all of that, I would like to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsors, CTBC Bank, China Airlines, Chunghwa Telecom, and Caliber. Now, Nightstar, I know you are definitely riding that LYB hype train. There's a lot of hopium going on right now, but they do face a tough task in the likes of Boom, who, for better and for worse, have played to the level of their opponents pretty much all split long.
Of course, over on the side of Boom, they've won and they've done well against the best of teams and also looked really, really bad against the worst of teams. So that'll be the one of the big tests here. Which kind of Boom do we get today? Yesterday, it was a bit of a disaster. After a great game one, they come back and end up getting kind of bodied in both games 2 and 3. And we'll have to see what the mental adjustments are. We talked about mental adjustments in the interview just prior of how Hong Kong Attitude were able to pivot from the Machi series to this one. But for Boom, I think it's a lot bigger issue because it wasn't just the mental, it was also mechanically there's something in the air.
Yeah, there was a lot of up and down. You know, they won their first game up against J-Team yesterday, and then things started to fall apart. There were some champion choices that didn't quite work out. I thought it was creative to try the Yone comp, or to try the Yone combo, but unfortunately in game 2, Ruby never really got a chance to execute it. And then in game 3, his Azir was not very good. So we'll look to see if he steps it up today. Hollow will be starting, and crucial point, Hollow has actually not played a game against LYB this split. This is going to be his first start against that squad. Boom have 2-0 this team in the regular season. However, they were both long, drawn-out, back-and-forth slogs, which it is very much signature Boom Esports, as they are now in this lower bracket matchup. I think got to get serious, because LYB, despite their record, despite only winning 4 games in the regular season plus tiebreak, this is a team that has had the pieces come together. They've been looking better and better.
Indeed, they have been. And I mean, Hollow, the key matchup is going to be the mid-jungle duos here, in my opinion, because Hollow is one of those more aggressive flare junglers, whereas Alex wants to be put more so on the scaling. And the big focal point for the LYB roster is how do we facilitate Dodoy? And one of the main pieces in doing so has been Xyliath in this mid lane, playing things like the Lulu, which can just enable him to charge forward on the Olaf, put damage onto the back line, and also get into the face of the opponent's jungler with the extra priority. And that's one of the things that Ruby doesn't necessarily do. He doesn't really play for his jungler. It's the jungler that kind of plays for him.
Yeah, a little bit of a flip on the way the styles that these two teams have. Let's compare them down the line. Action starts early and often for Boom Esports, really getting involved in those first bloods compared to LYB. And, of course, also definitely doing a lot better at contesting objectives like the Baron. See, here's the thing about LYB. Those stats, especially the goal differential, that all looks really bad. Have to keep in mind they've only won so many games, so one of the reasons they do, in the games they actually do win, well, it's when they actually do get out to a good lead. Their average goal differential at 15 is very bad, down 1,000 plus, but when they do get those leads, they start to go ahead, and when Boom don't find the gold leads themselves, as rare as that may happen, they have a really hard time getting back into game. Those are usually the ones they lose, and they lose them fast.
Yeah, the goal differential at 15 is actually quite important, just as not necessarily to decide the game, but really just a measure of where these teams are. Because if LYB are ahead at 15, they're 3-3. They're a pretty respectable team when it comes to having a gold lead at 15. For the side of Boom Esports, they're 9-1. They are absolutely lights out when it comes to having a gold lead. It's just a matter of doing so. As Rocky, he's feeling pretty comfortable. But I think when it comes to this pick and ban phase, the key point is what are these teams going to do? For Ziggs, should be permaban on red side, but perhaps LYB allow it through. No, it's not going to be allowed through. And then the jungle pool. Olaf, Volibear, Diana, Varus, they're all big picks for LYB. How many of those picks come off the table from Boom's end?
Yeah, LYB definitely a little more comfortable playing it on the red side. You know, all of their wins have come on this side of the rift. We were seeing that the win rate on blue is 0. So Boom with the first side selection pick, they opt into this one, and LYB should be fairly comfortable. You see a couple of jungle bans targeting out Dodoy. Has found success on both the Olaf and the Diana. Not going to get a chance for that one, but critically, if they don't ban out Viego, this is an option for Holo, who has not actually played that champion this split. And with the Renekton banned, it's up for grabs, as is the Gwen. But one of those could go over the way of LYB.
Could also be a first pick Volibear, as I would definitely assume LYB, if that pick does fall into their hands, they would instantly lock that up, as it will be Thresh left available, locked in for a pop here. Most likely will lead into a Aphelios pick. We'll see how LYB kind of play around this, because one of the big dynamics is, well, Aphelios doesn't get to play against champs like the Varus and the Ziggs, but when those picks are off the board, he kind of turns into an S+ tier.
Ooh. They take the Aphelios away on the bottom side. Okay.
Yeah, so actually going ahead, denying it, also locking in the Volibear for themselves. Decent opening for the side of LYB. It just comes down to what do they pair up with this Aphelios to actually keep them safe. Boom, they go ahead, lock in the Lee Sin. It's like 90% sure it's going to go into the hands of Hollow, as Jinx will be the hyper carry answer to pair up with the Thresh. It makes so much sense here. And over on the side of LYB, they instantly go for the Nautilus.
Yeah, I like this old school combo with the Jinx. Just really allows Wako to get into a situation where he could potentially pop off. And, you know, when the Aphelios is picked away, there is a pretty big difference, I feel, in the strength of the bottom lane. I think Dawn and Aiden, you know, the numbers that they've got, not quite on the same level, because Wako and Pop have just been so great at making plays in the 2v2, but also setting up in team fights. And when you add a Jinx into the mix, things get pretty crazy. As we enter ban phase 2, we see LeBlanc and Syndra both banned away, as the mid laners yet to pick their champions. Ruby has just played an absolute smattering, but LeBlanc has been his most played. And then the Azir, you know, I didn't really like it yesterday, but clearly LYB are a little worried about this.
It's still one of their stronger champions, especially in the hands of Ruby. It's also really difficult for LYB with the playstyle that they like to play, just kind of run at you style, to play against an Azir who can just shove you back and reset the fight with that Shurima shuffle. And now going into the second phase, we do have, of course, the Syndra and Camille taking off the board, and LYB, at this point, you're probably looking at mid lane and then saving counter pick for that top side.
Ryze is going to be locked in for Xyleath.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, add some much-needed AP into the mix, magic damage. And for those of you wondering, no action is not enabled, but he's still fun to flash.
Definitely a goofy champion. But just going back towards the
TFT
Ryze
is really hard to deal with, but we'll talk about that later, I suppose.
Incredibly difficult to deal with.
The Kiana Manor Hover. The ill-fated game. It will be an Orianna. Okay, so this is kind of a classic, old-school, you know, ball delivery fight comp.
Yeah, I mean, Ruby, when it comes down to it, he will just go straight back onto those control mages. Victor or Orianna, definitely his two big picks at this point, and it will be Gwen to round out the draft. So plenty of damage on the side of Boom. However, this is a very scaling composition. Doesn't necessarily have a lot in the early game to really punch through LYB. So for the side of LYB, if they invest a little bit more into that early game, okay, in fact, they're just going to handshake this scaling game and just say, all right, we'll go toe-to-toe. We'll coin flip the late game team fight. And I mean, a lot of times Boom really does just head towards that 35-minute mark and hope that the team fight lands heads on the last one.
Yeah, LYB, I give him credit for really taking it to Boom for the scaling fight, but it's going to be a little difficult. When Boom do win, those tend to be those longer games. It's the territory that they're very comfortable with, the 37, 38-minute plus, but both the games we saw in the regular split, that's exactly how they went down. It was a Boom victory both times, but, this is LYB leveling up, going from strength to strength. Maybe they can go toe-to-toe with Boom, especially after what we saw yesterday. It's a possibility. But for LYB, they're opting to play into the style, and maybe they know something we don't.
And for the most part, though, I do think LYB's composition is going to be a little bit more effective at getting off the ground, because you do have the Ryze Volibear combination. Ryze going to be able to shove out the lane a lot more with a lot more ease than the Orianna, and then of course you want to play around Dodoy as he gets aggressive in the bot half of the map, and they've got a great combination play around in that bot half of the map with Aphelios, with this Nautilus. So I do like this LYB draft, and it really just comes down to how good are these Boom hands. That's really all it ever, for the most part, ever comes down to in a Boom series.
That's the whole question. I mean, this team, they're so hard to place because we saw at the beginning of the split, the expectations weren't that high, but they really exceeded them by honestly taking out some of the top teams, by challenging PSG closer than anyone had up at that point. And then they kind of had some games where you're like just head scratching the entire time. So it's hard to know which Boom is going to show up on the day. We'll see if they boom their opponent or they get boomed themselves. As we get underway for this second playoff matchup, as a reminder, it is win or go home. LYB in the lower bracket only get one chance at this, and Boom, they are on their second chance after the loss against J-Team yesterday.
Yeah, stakes are high here. And for the side of LYB, this is also, their first playoff game, first postseason.
Since the PCS started.
Yeah,
I mean, this is huge for LYB. For the Philippines representatives, it's a big deal. We'll see if they can take it beyond just the first round.
Yeah, and the big thing is, what's the mentality coming out here? As Kanji, he's taking that level 1 trade against Gwen, of course. She loves those level 1 trades. And the one of the issues we saw in the previous series were Berjaya, even though they were given a composition that had fairly good agency in the early game, they never utilized it. So they got stuck in a rut when it came to mid game because they didn't have that snowball going for them. And for LYB, they're also going to have a lot of agency with this Ryze and Volibear combination. I want to see them actually utilize it here.
So I know we talked about how the mid and the jungle were going to be really interesting to watch. I do think this top lane matchup's going to be interesting, especially because Rocky hasn't lost on Gwen. He's played 4 games of this champion in the regular split, and he has a 100% win rate on it. Kanji is going to have some trouble. I wanted to talk Kanji up because for someone who came from a different lane, he was a mid laner to kick things off this season. Comes in, they swap him out for Speltz, and they put Xyleath in mid. He's really come into his own, but this is a heck of a challenge to go up against Rocky's best champion this split, a very improved top laner.
Ruby, a little bit far out here. Dodoy could set up here.
He's going to. Xyleath going for the bait, the brief flash, and follow. Rune Prison down, and that's going to be first blood, even with Holo tagging in, and ooh, that was nice and clean.
And Flash is expended by both mid laners along with Holo, so Dodoy gets even more room to operate here. A beautiful start as Ruby, he just crawls up way too far in the lane, and this is what Dodoy does. He attacks early on, and he's able to do so with absolute impunity there. Secures
That's what
them.
Dodoy do.
Yeah, gets them that first blood, and you know what? Kanji not having a great time. I actually expected him to go for the corrupting potion, just max out sustain, but he doesn't. He doesn't go for it, and now he's on this Doran's Blade, but only 7 CS. So
he's gonna have a bit of a rough time right now. He opted into this matchup, but yeah, Rocky has just looked so stellar in the regular split. A little bit invisible yesterday, and I think you can also partially blame some of the picks and the composition for that. But you have to think, if not the most improved player from spring to summer, certainly in the conversation. This top laner from Boom Esports.
He's definitely grown quite a bit. Now Kanji goes for the recall, actually opts into a second Doran's Blade here, just to try and keep himself propped up in this lane. Also note that Rocky is packing that Ignite, so in these all-in trades, should still have the advantage, even though Kanji might have an item advantage at some points in this lane.
Okay.
Okay,
actually going to land on terrain. Aiden goes a little deep in this one, but look at the damage Dawn is taking. Oh, that's going to be the heal. Pop trying to walk away from this. Aiden's too tanky.
Good.
Secures the kill with the hook.
Can they get a second?
Wako's in trouble now. This Boom bot lane getting outplayed in the 2v2.
That's a 2v2 kill going into the hands of LYB. They're out to a 600 gold lead, and what do you know? Dodoy's in position to look for the dive. It's just set up so darn perfectly. Waves coming in.
Oh,
Wako, he needs help. He's getting teleport coming in from Rocky, but you know what that means? It means that Kanji can just farm up and catch up in that top side.
Yeah, this is actually huge right now, and it all starts with the 2v2. Aiden goes a little deep. You gotta worry for him, but all of a sudden, Dawn turns it on. And you know, I said that this matchup was gonna be lopsided in favor of Boom. Well, you know what, Nightstar? I was wrong, because
it is lopsided.
Moly, it's in favor of LYB.
Let's go.
Oh my goodness. And the teleport as well is actually, it really is massive, because Rocky builds such a huge lead up in that top side against Kanji. And then what happens? He has to teleport away. Kanji has breathing room. All that advantage goes by the wayside.
Yeah. He was absolutely suffocating that top lane matchup, and now that he has to recall or has to go to the bottom lane with that teleport, he gives up a lot of the advantages he just gained through his own hard work. And now I don't know what the EXP values are, but Rocky is halfway to 6, and Kanji, I would assume with this wave coming towards him, should also hit 6 off that wave.
Well, they might be bringing people topside for a dive right now. Keep in mind, Rocky doesn't have flash, as he, of course, went for the Ignite this time around. And you know, you can see Xyliath was sniffing up there. Dodoy is actually going to be here, but he's only level 5, doesn't have the Stormbringer himself. It does check through the jungle, so they know that Holo is on the bottom side. And, you know, for the Lee Sin, he's had a much quieter start to this game than Dodoy. And, you know, I do think LYB, they play really well through their jungler. Not necessarily for their jungler, but certainly through him.
Yeah, and now Dodoy, he should be able to hit level 6 off these next 2 camps. He's already halfway there. That could prompt a gank right after he finishes that red buff. As Holo, he just wastes so much time trying to make that bottom play happen, but he was on a ward the entire time. They thought they were safe with the play because they had a control ward, but there was a very well-placed ward outside of the range of that red ward, and it will be the reset coming out from Dodoy, so not opting to look for a play topside right after. However, it could just mean he just sprints it straight down to the bottom lane.
I think Rocky knew that this would be a possibility. He does actually step out and put the control ward in that river brush, but Kanji's starting to come into his own now, and is actually, since he didn't back away from it all, actually hits level 7 first. And that's just going to be followed up by Rocky, but it's still a pretty sizable CS difference, but Kanji isn't losing out on experience, and that's critical right now.
Yeah.
Let's go for the double Dorn start, but, you know, hey, he's had a bit of a rough one, needs every little bit of damage he can get.
Yeah, and the other thing is the fact that Rocky also went for the double Doran start here as well, so you're not giving up too much ground when it comes to the item builds and investing for double Doran's Blade for Kanji, as both top laners will be set behind by that additional Doran's item, and boom, they'll be able to secure this first Rift Herald here.
That's a nice play for Boom, just to try and push in a lane. It depends on where they choose, because at the moment, top lane, it seems like the most obvious answer to try and force Kanji back a little bit. But I think Boom might have been caught a little bit off guard by just how strong Don and Aiden have been. I know I certainly have been, as this is going to prompt LYB to kick things off with an Infernal Dragon. The jungle mid of Boom are actually coming around the side too, but this is going to be gone before they get there. And nicely done by LYB, answering on the map.
Yeah, very nice take of that next dragon, or for that first dragon. Interestingly enough, their average time for first dragon has been 14 minutes, so usually they don't...
Oh, this is way improved.
Yeah, they don't usually turn their attention towards that objective, but this time around, it's just a really easy setup, given the fact that they have bot lane advantage so far, and mid lane is easily going to shove in. And then also the fact that, well, Hollow, he was on the Rift Herald, so very far away from the action.
Oh, I think he got spotted for just a second if Xyliath was seeing him on the map. I wasn't entirely sure, as he was just outside the range of that ward. Yep, he knows, so going to be able to back away safely. And Hollow just, he's been a little unlucky getting spotted. Hasn't been able to find a good play in lane or a good gank in lane.
You know, I don't know if it's unlucky. LYB just doing a very good job when it comes to warding out some of these jungle paths. They know that for the most part, top lane is kind of isolated here. So, and with how Kanji has been kind of holding the wave at his tower, allowing the wave to crash towards him, he hasn't been forced in a position where he needs to be careful about warding around his side. So
that's true.
He's
been playing weak side very well.
Though.
Yeah, I don't think this is bad for LYB, though. You know, you talked about trying to handshake it into the late game, and they're clearly trusting that their ability to get things done in that phase of the game is going to be big. You know, I think it just comes down to key ultimate usage, right? Ruby on this Orianna, you know, we've seen that champion more recently, the potential of it in the earlier stages of the split when it was all about the assassin meta in the mid. When we rarely did see an Orianna, it kind of didn't really do that much because people weren't getting the big shockwaves on. Now they've got Holo to deliver it, potentially Rocky as well. So maybe we can see these big plays, but it's going to be a while before that starts to happen. And on the LYB side, you know, they have chances to make global plays. They do have the party portal from Xyliath, and so far they're acquitting themselves very well in this laning phase.
Next play here should be a dive in one of these side lanes. It does look like the side of Boom, they're kind of setting up for a play top side.
Yeah.
As Dodoy level 7 now, should be looking for a bot side play, especially with that ult available. And just gonna get 2 plates here, Kanji, making sure that they don't go for more. Although they could definitely just try and force it.
Yeah, I think they're playing a little more conservatively right now. Boom, you know, they can be a very scrappy team, but sometimes over-aggression does punish them a little bit, so they'll be content with just letting Rocky kind of get the farm and get the push out on the tower. Holo is coming up. They may have enough. No, they're going to go for the kick and miss the Sonic Wave. Kanji, he's still limping away, and actually, he tanks the Ignite. Yeah, Holo, he knows he done goofed on that one, but I don't think Kanji wasn't really paying attention there. The Riposta's come down, Grand Challenge issued, and actually they bring Xyliath in! Oh, what a great bait!
Oh, they get another one!
And here comes Ruby, Shockwave. It's gonna be enough to get the kill. That's 1 for 1.
Okay.
But LYB, that was a huge win for LYB, in all honesty.
It ends up being a 1-for-1 trade in a 3v2 situation, and on the flip side, Dodoy got thrown off of the play. It does look like that they tried to go for the dive, as you can see Dodoy's ult is on cooldown, but must have been a really nice disengage coming in from Pop. Might end up seeing a replay. later on. But as we take a look at the gold's dead even. It is 600 gold for the side of Boom Esports when it comes to
Okay.
plate gold. As okay, Dodoy.
That's what happened down
out. Oh.
Yeah, I got a little bit caught down there and ended up using the. You know, we've seen a lot of Stormbringers disengage on these Volibears. Sometimes it just be like that, unfortunately. But he's been doing a good job. You know, has his mythic item, of course, been matched by Holo, and out of this laning phase, Gold, as you mentioned, dead even, really doing a good job up top. Rocky with Holo able to secure pretty much all the turret plates up there, but still traded 1-for-1 with superior numbers up against Kanji. And, you know, I want to give Kanji credit. He's playing weak side top lane against a very tough opponent. He started the split in mid lane. He's made the transition for sure. And
that's kind of just how you're going to end up playing Fiora when you know you're playing the weak side. You're just trying to scale up, get that first mythic under your belt, and then slowly but surely outscale in the 1v1. But Rocky does have a little bit more to offer when it comes to team fights, which is going to be the big difference when it comes to these top laners. It's going to be a dragon fight.
Yeah, they actually do pull Aiden in, but the turnaround with the Aphelios, they have quite a lot to take down Pop. Not very tanky as Rocky goes into the back, throws the mist on. Aiden should fall. Meanwhile, it's kind of on multiple fronts here, but Leah, they bit off way more than they could chew. The flash, the rocket, Wako getting one for the reset, and now Holo getting taken out by Kanji.
They can
turn again as Dodoy looks for Ruby once more. He's going to try to get over the wall, can't quite do it. Dragon is so aggroed in all of this. They're still going to go for this one. It resets. It's going to be under fire as it goes right back into the pit. Dodoy very low in this. Wako trying to zone the jungler away. And this is going to be anyone's Drake right now as it does get taken away by the Jinx. And
can they kill?
Oh my goodness.
Oh no, they can't.
Wako's running wild, Nightstar.
That's a
Look
reset
at this right now.
Can they chase?
You can certainly try. That's going to be the jump in from the Big Bear, and that's the turnaround again.
Oh,
what was that fight? The teleport even comes in after the fact, and man, that was back and forth.
Oh, tit for tat. We already went tit for tat in game in our previous series, but it starts out just like how it ended in the previous series. Holo starts out the dragon. He has to evacuate the premise, but then the hooks coming in from both supports, you know, that starts it off. And Aiden, he's just a little bit more beefy as the teleports then turn in. Dawn doesn't get finished off by the Orianna, more importantly, although later on it's going to be harder and harder to survive. But now Kanji, he comes back, his full health through the entire thing. And then Ruby, no flash because he used it on that top play after teleporting in. This is kind of where things go, yeah, this is kind of where things go Yaki stacks.
Yeah, at this point, I think you kind of have to back away. I mean, I like the riposte, but then, yeah, Rocky just stays alive through the mist.
Yeah.
And Wako, this is the thing about a Jinx, you know? You can get some serious poke out on those rockets, but you have to be careful if you overcommit, because sometimes a bear just drops on top of your head and kills you.
And that was the big thing. Dodoy didn't have ultimate for the start of the dragon. However, he did have it afterwards when Wako thought he was all in the clear. No, that's when Dodoy drops the hammer and able to secure a kill at the very end on the AD carry. But Gold still dead even here, as it does
dragons
look like,
as well.
Yeah, we are going to have some turrets falling. It's going to be top 4 bottom turret here. And it looks like Jinx could try and get 2, although with the rise there, to stave off the push, but he's kind of getting shoot. Yeah, they're getting shoot away from mid.
That's going to be it for the minion wave. So really, this map has started to open up a little bit. It's going to be about who can really get in position in time, taking the fights as well. And mythic items completed across the board. It looks like that route down onto Holo. Shockwave does pull Aiden back, and they get the hook actually right into the rocket. Well executed there. They even managed to find more around the side. Here comes Xylia to try and get the play up, but Holo's already flashed away. Oh,
Kanji's here,
man, that was close.
Might look for the chase, but it ends up being just 2 kills into the favor of Boom Esports. Able to now open up a 1,000 gold lead here as Dodoy, he does have the ultimate. He's going to go.
And they find Ruby in the pullback. That's a great lantern.
It's not enough.
As they keep him alive, and now the turn comes in. Wako can just keep poking them away. Have to be a little careful not to step too far forward. That zap not quite able to connect. Meanwhile, Rocky is able to freely shove a minion wave up on tier 2. Boom, really grabbing the tempo advantage.
And that's the big thing. That's the big consequence of that fight over in the mid lane is the fact that Rocky, he just gains a whole lot of extra EXP and gold value as he is 202, 50 CS lead, and now you get the reset. Wako's just popping already. 2, 1, and 3. He's gonna have a zeal completed on that next recall at the very least. And you see,
who opted into this?
It was actually a lot expended to try and secure Aiden, so I thought once that happened, they'd be able to actually turn, but Dawn just takes too much damage, uses the Chakram ultimate instead of the Severum ultimate, and that actually makes a world of difference. Would have gotten a really big heal off of Red ult. Unfortunately,
Holo lives with like 10 hit points too, and also Dodoy, Ruby gets away. I mean, Hop wins the MVP for Lanterns already.
Yeah, it could have been a 2v2.
Yeah, easily. So as we get closer to that 20-minute mark, Boom, they are in the lead by about 2,000 gold, and a lot of that is in turrets, but also the kills have caught back up. And Boom also have a huge tempo advantage right now. They can keep this wave cleared, they can keep the Death Brush up, and try to get picks to set up for this next Ocean Dragon that's coming up right after this, and are going to take a little bit of a better position. Meanwhile, Rocky's just not been with the team. He's just been side laning. That's been fine. He's been having a good old time playing PvE for a little bit. But he's right back in mid lane now.
Yeah, and I mean, he's in such a prime position to carry these team fights with just so much damage loaded up. Looks like he's going to be going towards that Nashor's Tooth. And for the side of LYB, they've decided to go ahead and let this one go here. This third dragon overall, not necessarily a ton of consequence, but now Aiden.
They got the fight again. That's going to be quite a lot to kick things off here, but Boom actually get poked out of it a little bit. Rocky gonna throw down the needlework, just trying to get more. Aiden gonna counter engage. They do get play back into the box, but the damage is there. Rocky will get shut down, and in goes Dodoy into the back, but he does manage not quite to get out. Big shut down, the double for the Jinx, and the team is moving, but there is still enough damage left for LYB to get something for themselves. 2 for 2.
And these 80 carries, both of them, are just doing so much damage for their teams. And that's really just what it comes down to, the position of these 80 carries in these fights. Who is able to auto attack just a couple more times than the other? That's going to make the difference when it comes to these fights. It's just on such narrow margins as we get to see Aiden, he whiffs the hook, ends up getting jumped on, and I thought this would be a wipe for the side of Boom because the turn is just right then and there. You're going to see the ultimate come in from Oriana after Aiden lands that next hook, and like they landed a decent amount of burst damage, but now look where that ball is, instantly just burst 2 targets down, and I thought after that first reset, like it's off to the races for Boom Esports, but Dawn has other things to say.
Oh yeah, honestly both AD carries have been matching very well, but it's Wako that's been picking up the kills in this one, and you know, really set up to be knocked down by Ruby. Great shockwave. I liked what Dodoy was trying to do there as he goes in on the Stormbringer, but unfortunately his team wasn't able to follow up, so the rest of LYB really couldn't do much about it, and it's still a pretty even trade, so the game state doesn't change a whole ton right here, Nightstar, but man, is it a tense one.
It is definitely getting more and more tense. This is exactly the sweet spot we were talking about, right? It's going to hit that, well, it's looking like it's going to hit 30 minutes very comfortably. We'll see if it hits 35, which is kind of where Boom like to take their games. And
yeah, Boom really loved that particular time on the map. It seems like all their games will end up getting there at some point. Aiden, whoop, yep, he's out. That's fine.
Yeah, at that point, like, it only takes one small mistake for LYB or Boom to just win or lose the game. it is just a game played by the narrowest of margins at that point, especially with how much scaling is available on both sides.
Kanji has been slowly building it up here. He's still a little bit down versus Rocky, but going to try to look to set up a little bit of a one-man death brush. Unfortunately for him, Ruby a little bit wise to this possibly, as Holo is now going to come in as they look for a play. Would not be able to kick him away from tower range. Nicely sidestepped by Kanji. Here comes the counter engage. Dodoe was calling him for backup. And they're just going to wave at each other from across the lane.
And the big thing here for Dodoe is that he's on 2 completed items. However, these 2 completed items don't necessarily give him a ton of durability. It does look like Boom are starting up the Baron. This could be an objective. They sneak away very easily.
It's already 3,000. We're going to need to try for the steal, but Dodoe, he's not in position to do this. This should be secured up. And even with the Shockwave, he actually tries to ult over it. That one does get taken. And Boom managed to just pull off the Baron heist.
They sneak away with the Baron buff, and LYB, they just don't have the tools to get into their own jungle when they aren't that coordinated. Aiden and Dodoe had an inkling, but really, Kanji, he can't really face check with the squad, so it's really just all on the jungle support duo to make the vision play happen, and now they're going to drop behind 3k in gold, and with this next dragon coming up and available, that shouldn't be a priority for LYB, but it does mean it should be an easy soul point obtained for the side of Boom Esports.
Yeah, but they're more interested in setting up more of these picks again. It has been Deathbrush City for Boom right now. They do have a lot of explosive potential, and that's not the only thing that they've got, because they're getting caught right now.
No.
That is a nice flash away.
They're out of position now.
It's going to be the positioning on the top of the bottom tower. They actually found it at the moment, and oh my goodness! As Xyliath enters, the ball was there to connect, and they blow up 2 immediately. How's that for timing?
That could just be
flash forward. I think it might be LYB. They're having some trouble here. Dawn does manage to throw out the Moonlight Vigil, but he's not going to be able to do enough damage to follow through, and the turnaround is huge. Kanji may take out Holo, but I don't think that's going to be enough here. Xyliath goes golden, falls right on top of the traps, and Rocky was able to take him out with nobody left to defend. Kanji trying to teleport back, Kanji on a run as the team of Boom are teleporting in to close this one out in game 1. What a turn.
And it was just back and forth through this game, but once that Baron buff came down, it was just off to the races for the side of Boom Esports. LYB thought they caught out the 80 carry from Boom in Wako, but the Lantern was perfect, and the wave was even more perfect coming in from Boom Esports as they just escorted straight down bot lane and finished the game.
That was, by Boom standards, a absolute speed run. 26 minutes to win the game. That is so much shorter than their normal game time when they win. It's even shorter when they lose. But Boom, they found an opening, they took it. The Rise portal timing and placement was just, as they say in the business, a little bit unlucky. Because that was a brilliant shockwave. I want to give Ruby so much credit for pulling it off and setting up so much good CC and damage for the likes of Wako, for the likes of Rocky to really pop off. And honestly, Boom, it was very back and forth, but they had kind of the eye of the tiger when it came down to it.
That was a little bit sus. The Rise ult definitely just rings.
That was a bit panicky.
Yeah. And unfortunately, because of the 2 members that did take it, it was Dodoe and it was Aiden. That was their front line. Instantly eliminated. That makes life impossibly difficult for Dawn on this Aphelios. He isn't able to really output any damage. You saw there, just no peel whatsoever. They just were able to dog him down very, very easily. So going into next game, I kind of expect the side of LYB to swap over to blue side, drop the Ziggs ban, and hopefully try and get that for a first pick here, because I think the bot lane dynamic changes a lot here if you are able to get the Ziggs and just focus more resources into Kanji.
Yeah, I think Kanji getting set behind early did make the game plan a little bit slower from LYB. I don't think the draft was really too much of an issue for them that time around either. I really liked what I saw out of this LYB squad. They have been improving as well. And early game, they were able to tangle with the likes of Boom. But, you know, it's Boom. They really picked it up from yesterday. It feels like just a couple of mistakes was all it took for them to really start snowballing ahead. And that Baron heist, that was absolutely beautiful. LYB saw it at like the last second, but it was way too late. And you know, you have a Jinx on the team, you can shred Baron really fast. Between that and a Gwen, there's a lot.
They definitely had more than enough damage to just absolutely Shrek that Baron, and Shrek it they did. And I mean, over on the side,
it was all ogre after that. So to be fair,
yeah, definitely all ogre after that one. LYB, instead of the Fiora pick, while I definitely think Kanji probably had a lot of confidence in going for that pick, I would have liked something with a little bit more teamfight impact instead of the 1v1. I'm not sure. I don't think Malphite was the pick, but because of how immobile that backline was, if you were able to give the Malphite a little bit of attention to make sure he doesn't get dumpstered too hard in the lane phase, it would have been so impactful in some of those mid-late game team fights at setting up for his team. It would have been nuts.
Whoa, look at that Jinx damage. You know, I thought that Dawn was keeping pace, but I think I was a little wrong about that one because it really, like, the rocket poke just started to get out of hand. It doesn't have anything on the Ziggs from earlier, but yeah, like, I really liked the Jinx pick. It's a good old combo with the Thresh. I also kind of want to give, I don't think he's going to get it, but I want to give Pop kind of an honorary MVP because, you know, chuck a lantern, save a life. That was kind of his mantra this game.
Yeah, Pop's play was actually really, really good. You saw in that bot dive, we saw the replay where Dodoy was
he got the MVP!
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
I agree with this 100%.
7% damage percentage. I don't know why you need to show that one, but
he's a support, guys. You're being mean. No, but yeah, he did. He like the scoreline like doesn't really tell the story of what he was able to do because it was great roaming, it was great positioning. He really like made those lanterns count. He also just kind of nailed hook after hook. I mean, Pop has been one of the better engagers and counter engagers, I think, in this split, just period. When Boom have shined, it's because he sets up fights for them so well, and he also knows how to bail people out. There's a reason this Thresh ends up getting banned a lot, but in the hands of a very skilled support like Pop, you really see it.
And it's really important for the side of Boom because their carries like to sometimes misposition themselves. And if you have a Thresh mispositioning, you can fix that very easily. You know, you can yoink them out of there, unlike something like a Nautilus that only has one way and that's in, or the Leona. So we'll see how draft dynamic changes in that next game, but definitely a good showing here. Game number 1 for the side of Boom Esports, but not that poor of a start for LYB. They just let things get a little bit out of control at the very end.
That they did, but we'll see if they can fire back and take this to game 3 or if they will be out after this one, but we'll find out right after this short break.